Jake Morrison felt his anger growing as he sat in the huge meeting room. The table was made of black stone that reflected the lights above. Around him sat creatures from 47 different worlds. Some looked like giant bugs. Others were made of crystal that made musical sounds when they moved. A few had tentacles instead of arms. Jake was the human ambassador to the Galactic Council. He had held this job for 5 years. Every day felt harder than the last. Today was going to be the worst day yet. The meeting room was enormous. It could hold thousands of beings. The ceiling was so high that Jake could barely see it. Strange lights floated in the air without any wires or supports. The whole place was designed to make visitors feel small and unimportant. "The human request is denied," said the council speaker. His name was Threnvar, and he belonged to a race called the Threnody. He was 12 feet tall with 6 arms and skin that looked like polished metal. His voice echoed through the room like thunder. Jake stood up slowly. His chair made a loud scraping sound against the floor. The sound seemed very loud in the quiet room. Every alien eye turned to look at him. "That makes 3 times this year," Jake said. His voice was steady, but everyone could hear the anger in it. "3 times we have asked for help protecting our colonies from pirates. 3 times you have said no." The crystal being called Zelkira made a sound like wind chimes, laughing. "Humans always want to fight. This is why we cannot trust you with important decisions." Captain Lisa Barnes sat in the section for observers. She was not allowed to speak in these meetings, but Jake could see the anger on her face. Lisa ran the human space fleet. She had fought pirates and saved colonies many times. She knew what was really happening out there. "Our colonies are being attacked every week," Jake continued. "Our people are dying. Our children are being taken as slaves. We are not asking you to fight for us. We are asking for permission to protect ourselves." The Corvin ambassador moved his tentacles in a pattern that meant he was amused. His translator device turned his words into human speech. "Young species must learn patience. The galaxy has been peaceful for 1,000 years because we think." "Before we act," Dr. Susan Price stood up from her seat. She was the human science advisor. She was a small woman with gray hair, but her voice carried clearly across the room. "Peaceful for who?" she asked. "Not for the colonies that get raided every month. Not for the trade ships that disappear. Not for the families that lose everything." "Two pirates," the Nexari representative spoke up. His people looked like large cats that walked on 2 legs. "The Council maintains peace through wisdom, not violence. Humans have been members for only 20 years. You do not understand how things work." Jake felt his hands shake with anger. 20 years was not long for these aliens. Some of them lived for thousands of years. But 20 years was long enough for Jake to see how the Council really worked. The powerful species made all the decisions. The weaker species did what they were told. Humans were somewhere in the middle. They were strong enough to be useful, but not strong enough to have a real voice. "We understand perfectly," Jake said. "We understand that you want us to patrol the trade routes and fight the pirates. You want us to share our technology and our medical discoveries. You want us to do the work, but you do not want us to have any say in how things are done." The room erupted in angry sounds. The crystal beings chimed loudly. The insect-like creatures clicked and buzzed. The tentacled ones made wet slapping sounds. Each species had its own way of showing displeasure. Threnvar raised all 6 of his arms for silence. "Ambassador Morrison, you forget yourself. The Council has given humanity many gifts. We have shared our knowledge. We have allowed you to trade with advanced civilizations. We have welcomed you into galactic society. And what have we given?" "In return?" Dr. Price asked. She pulled out a data tablet and read from it. "In 20 years, humans have contributed more new technology than most species contribute in 500 years. Our doctors have created cures for 12 major diseases. Our engineers have improved space travel for everyone. Our soldiers have died protecting trade routes that we are not even allowed to use." The Valorian ambassador shifted uncomfortably. His people looked like tall, thin humans with blue skin. Dr. Price speaks truly about human contributions. Perhaps we should consider their requests more carefully. Several other aliens made angry sounds at the Valorian. The crystal being Zelkira chimed in what sounded like a scolding tone. Do not encourage them, Keth9. Humans are too emotional. Too quick to anger, they cannot be trusted with real authority. That was the moment Jake Morrison decided he had heard enough. He had spent 5 years listening to aliens tell him that humans were too young, too violent, too stupid to have opinions that mattered. He had watched good people die while the council debated and delayed and did nothing. Too emotional? Jake asked. His voice was getting louder. Our children are being murdered, and you call us emotional for caring about it? Perhaps humans need more time to mature, said another alien. This one looked like a walking tree with eyes in its bark. A few more centuries of guidance might help. Lisa Barnes stood up in the observer section. She was not supposed to speak, but she did anyway. Maturity? We have been fighting and dying to protect your trade routes for 20 years. We have never asked for payment. We have never demanded rewards. We only asked for the right to protect our own people. If that is not mature, then what is? The council speaker Threnvar looked annoyed. Captain Barnes, you are not recognized to speak in this chamber. Then maybe it is time we found somewhere else to speak, Jake said. The words came out before. He really thought about them. But once he said them, he knew they were true. The room went completely silent. Even the constant humming of the air system seemed to stop. Every alien stared at Jake with surprise. You do not mean that, Threnvar said. His metal skin had turned a darker color. Surely you do not mean to threaten withdrawal from the council. Jake looked around the room at all the alien faces. Some showed concern, others showed anger. A few looked almost hopeful, as if they wanted humans to leave so they would not have to deal with them anymore. I am not threatening anything, Jake said clearly. I am stating a fact. If the Galactic Council cannot protect human colonies, then humans will have to protect themselves. If the Council does not want human opinions, then humans will make their own decisions. Dr. Price stepped forward to stand beside Jake. Effective immediately, humanity withdraws from the Galactic Council. We will handle our own affairs from now on. The three humans walked toward the exit. Their footsteps echoed loudly in the silent chamber. As they reached the door, Jake turned back one last time. You wanted us to be more mature, he said. Mature species take care of themselves. The door closed behind them with a soft sound that somehow seemed final. In the meeting room, chaos erupted as dozens of alien voices tried to speak at once. But the humans were already gone. They had no idea that within months, the aliens would realize just how much they had lost. 3 months had passed since Jake Morrison walked out of the Galactic Council chambers. Admiral Carl Davis stood on the bridge of his battleship watching the last group of human ships leave Council space. The ship was called Freedom's Edge, and it was the largest warship humans had ever built. Carl was a big man with gray hair and serious eyes. He had commanded ships for 30 years. He had fought pirates and explored new worlds. But he had never done anything as important as this. Today marked the end of humanity's time as part of the galactic community. Final Transport Group has cleared the border, sir, said Commander Betty Walsh. She was Carl's second in command and one of the best officers in the human fleet. Her voice was calm, but Carl could hear the emotion underneath. Carl nodded slowly. The evacuation had been enormous. 12 million humans had lived on council worlds. Some worked as traders, others were scientists or doctors. Many were just families trying to make a living in the galaxy. All of them had to leave. The aliens had not forced them out. In fact, some alien governments had begged humans to stay. But the message from Earth was clear. No human would remain under council authority. If the council did not want human opinions, then they would not get human help either. Set course for the frontier expanse, Carl ordered. Time to build something new. The frontier expanse was a region of space that no major power controlled. It had dozens of star systems with planets that could support human life. There were Also vast asteroid fields full of metals and other resources. Best of all, there were no aliens telling humans what they could and could not do. Dr. Susan Price approached with a tablet full of information. She had been the science advisor at the council, but now she worked for the new Human Colonial Authority. The survey teams have finished their reports, she said. We found 17 star systems that look perfect for colonies. Enough space for us to grow for hundreds of years. Any problems? Carl asked. He had learned to be careful about planets. That seemed too good to be true. 3 systems have intelligent life, but they are still primitive, Stone Age level technology. We have already written rules for peaceful contact. We will help them develop, but we will not force anything on them. Carl smiled slightly. Even after leaving the council, humans still wanted to do the right thing. They could have just taken what they wanted. Their technology was advanced enough to conquer primitive worlds easily. But that was not the human way. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Kelly looked up from his station. He was young, but very smart about military tactics. Sir, we are detecting increased pirate activity along our old patrol routes. Looks like they are taking advantage of the situation. Carl's expression grew dark. For 20 years, human ships had patrolled the major trade routes. They had kept the pirates away from merchant vessels and passenger ships. Now those routes were unprotected. Not our problem anymore, Carl said firmly. The council made their choice. But even as he said the words, Carl felt bad about it. Those trade routes connected many different worlds. Innocent people would suffer because the pirates were becoming bold again. Children and families on passenger ships would be in danger. Admiral, Dr. Price said quietly, we are receiving distress signals from several independent colonies. These are not council worlds. They are small settlements that depended on our patrols for protection. The bridge became very quiet. Everyone knew what this meant. The independent colonies had never been part of the council. They had never voted against human proposals or insulted human intelligence. They were just small groups of people trying to survive on frontier worlds. Many of these colonies had been started by species that were too weak or too poor to join the council. They had always been grateful when human patrol ships stopped by to check on them. Sometimes human doctors had helped with medical emergencies. Sometimes human engineers had fixed broken equipment. Sir? Commander Walsh asked softly. She knew Carl was struggling with the decision. Carl stared out at the stars through the main view screen. The human fleet was no longer bound by council rules. They did not have to ask permission before helping someone. They did not have to wait for committee approval before taking action. For 20 years, humans had wanted the freedom to act quickly when people needed help. Now they finally had that freedom. The question was what they would do with it. Change course, Carl said finally. We will make one sweep through the independent sectors before heading to the frontier expanse. Any pirates we find get one chance. T.O. surrender, Dr. Price smiled. I thought you might say that. We may have left the council, Carl said, but we did not abandon our principles. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. The crew began implementing the new orders with enthusiasm. Everyone felt good about the decision. They were finally free to do what they thought was right without asking permission from aliens who did not understand human values. As the Freedom's Edge changed course toward the independent sectors, Carl thought about the future. Humanity was taking a big risk. They were giving up the safety and stability of council membership. They were choosing an uncertain future in unknown space, but they were also choosing freedom. Freedom to protect their own people. Freedom to help those who needed assistance. Freedom to build the kind of civilization they believed in. 3 days later, the human fleet encountered their first pirate group. 15 enemy ships were attacking a convoy of refugee transports from a world devastated by natural disasters. The refugees were fleeing to safety, but the pirates wanted to capture them and sell them as slaves. Carl did not hesitate. All ships, attack formation. Disable their engines, but try not to kill unless necessary. The battle was over in minutes. Human technology was much more advanced than pirate equipment. The enemy ships were destroyed or captured. The refugees were safe. As the human fleet continued toward the frontier expanse, word spread quickly through the independent sectors. Humanity had left the Council, but they had not abandoned their role as protectors. If anything, they were now free to be more effective than ever before. Carl smiled as he read the grateful messages from the rescued refugees. This felt right. This felt like what humans were meant to do. The Council had wanted humans to be patient and cautious. But patience did not save lives. Caution did not stop pirates from hurting innocent people. Humanity was finally free to be itself. 6 months after the humans left, the Galactic Council was facing its biggest crisis in centuries. Ambassador Keth9 from the Valorian Republic stood before the emergency meeting. His blue skin looked pale and his tall frame shook with worry. The meeting room felt different now. Many seats were empty. Several species had stopped coming to meetings. Others had reduced their participation. The Grand Chamber that once felt powerful now felt hollow and sad. The Shadowhawk Syndicate has taken control of the Kepler Junction, Keth9 announced. His voice echoed in the mostly empty room. They have hundreds of ships now. If we do not stop them soon, they will control the main shipping route between the core worlds and the outer colonies. The council speaker Threnvar looked older than before. His metal skin had lost some of its shine. His 6 arms moved more slowly than they used to. Surely your own military can handle some simple pirates, he said, but his voice lacked confidence. These are not simple pirates anymore, Keth9 replied angrily. They have grown stronger since certain patrol routes were abandoned. They have captured advanced weapons. They have enslaved entire populations to build ships for them. They have recruited thousands of desperate people who lost their jobs when the trade routes became unsafe. The crystal being Zelkira flickered weakly. Her musical voice sounded tired. The Valorian military is supposed to be one of the strongest in the galaxy. How can you not handle this problem yourself? Because we relied on the human patrol network, Keth9 shouted. He had abandoned all pretense of diplomatic politeness. For 20 years, human ships kept the space lanes safe. Their early warning systems detected threats before they became serious. Their rapid response teams stopped small problems from becoming big ones. They were willing to actually fight when talking failed. We all depended on them, even if we never wanted to admit it. Uncomfortable silence filled the chamber. The truth that everyone had avoided was finally spoken out loud. The humans had not just been junior members of the council. They had been doing most of the actual work of keeping the galaxy safe. Dr. Morvik, the Korvan scientist, moved his tentacles nervously. The situation is worse than just pirates. The Quantum Tunnel project has stopped completely without human computers. The medical research program has lost most of its capacity for breakthrough discoveries. 3 major diseases that we were close to curing are now spreading again because human doctors are no longer sharing their research. The Nexari representative, who looked like a large cat walking on 2 legs, spoke reluctantly. Trade has collapsed in 12 sectors. Human colonies were major buyers of luxury goods, rare metals, and cultural items. The economic damage is spreading across half the galaxy. Ambassador Yilik from the hegemony, whose people resembled large insects, clicked his mandibles sadly. Our youth exchange programs have ended. Our universities have lost access to human research. Our artists can no longer collaborate with human creators. We are becoming isolated and stagnant. The council speaker tried to maintain his authority. The humans made their choice. They were the ones who walked out. They abandoned their responsibilities to the galactic community. Responsibilities? Keth9 laughed bitterly. We gave them responsibilities but no real authority. We used their strength but denied them respect. We treated them like servants while expecting them to work like partners. We took credit for their successes and blamed them for any failures. The room erupted in a mixture of alien voices. Each species suddenly remembered some critical service the humans had provided, some problem they had solved quietly, some threat they had eliminated without asking for recognition. The tree-like Dendari spoke in their slow, deep voice. Human agricultural experts taught us new farming methods that doubled our food production. Now our outer colonies are facing famine because we cannot remember all the techniques. The floating gas beings called ethereals pulsed with sad colors. Human engineers maintained the communication networks that connected our distant settlements. Since they left, we have lost contact with 17 of our colonies. The small furry Minari squeaked anxiously. Human medical ships provided emergency care to our remote stations. Our people are dying from injuries that human doctors could easily treat. Zelkira's crystal form dimmed further. Human scientists helped us understand dangerous cosmic phenomena. Without their input, we failed to predict the solar storm that destroyed our research station last month. Dr. Morvik waved his tentacles. In distress, human peacekeepers mediated disputes between species before they became violent. The border war between the Calvini and the Threx could have been prevented if human diplomats had been available. The weight of realization settled over the chamber. The Galactic Council had not just lost one member species. They had lost species that had been holding their civilization together. The humans had been the glue that made everything work. Perhaps, the Valorian ambassador said quietly, we were wrong about them. Perhaps they were not too young or too violent. Perhaps. They were exactly what we needed, and we were too proud to see it. Council Speaker Threnvar slumped in his chair. For 3,000 years, the Galactic Council had maintained peace and prosperity. The older species had guided the younger ones with wisdom earned through centuries of experience. The system had worked perfectly, but the humans had been different. They had not fit the pattern. They had been willing to fight when others preferred to talk. They had acted quickly when others wanted to deliberate. They had put practical results ahead of theoretical perfection. The Council had seen these traits as flaws, signs of immaturity, and lack of wisdom. Now they realized these traits had been exactly what the galaxy needed to face modern challenges. What do we do now? Asked the ethereal representative, his colors shifting to deep blue patterns. Of worry, the question hung in the air like a physical weight. The galaxy was falling apart. Pirates controlled major trade routes. Diseases were spreading unchecked. Colonies were losing contact with their homeworlds. Wars were breaking out over resources and territory, and somewhere in the frontier expanse, the humans were building something new. Something that worked better than what they had left behind, the council that had dismissed them as too immature to matter was now desperately trying to figure out how to survive without them. Admiral Carl Davis stood in his new command center on the planet New Gettysburg. Through the large windows, he could see the bustling construction of humanity's first major colony in the frontier expanse. Ships landed and took off constantly. Workers built new factories and homes. Children played in parks that had not existed a year ago. Commander Betty Walsh entered the room carrying a stack of reports. Her expression was serious as she placed them on Carl's desk. The intelligence reports are in, sir. The situation in council space is getting worse. Carl picked up the first report and read it carefully. The Shadowhawk Syndicate has taken 12 more star systems. What happened to the council's response? Their joint task force was destroyed at the Battle of Helix Nebula, Betty replied grimly. 4,000 aliens died. 8 major warships were lost. The Corvin Third Fleet was completely eliminated. Carl set down the report and rubbed his forehead. He felt no satisfaction in hearing about alien deaths. These were not his enemies. They were just people who had made bad decisions about how to handle threats. Dr. Susan Price entered the room carrying her own stack of papers. She had become the chief science advisor for the Human Colonial Authority. The situation gets worse every day. The Zilari have withdrawn all their ships from frontier activities. The Nexari are only sending trade ships to their safest core systems. And the Valorian Republic has officially asked us for help protecting their outer colonies. Asked or demanded? Carl wanted to know the difference. Asked very politely. They offered significant payment and exclusive trade agreements. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Kelly looked up from his computer terminal. Sir, we are also receiving direct requests from dozens of independent worlds. Some are offering permanent bases for our ships. Others are offering exclusive mining rights. They are not asking the Council for help anymore. They are coming straight to us. The irony was not lost on any of them. 6 months ago, humanity had been treated like children who could not be trusted with important decisions. Now they were being courted as the galaxy's primary protectors and problem solvers. What is our current fleet strength? Carl asked. 67 major ships, with more being built every month, Betty answered. The new shipyards at New Austin are producing ships faster than we expected. When you are not limited by Council regulations on weapons and defensive systems, you can build some very impressive hardware, Dr. Price smiled. We have also made significant technological advances, without having to share every discovery with the Council's technology sharing program. Our research has accelerated dramatically. Our new ships are more advanced than anything we built while we were Council members. How is morale among our people? Carl asked. Higher than it has been since the early colonial days, Ryan reported. Everyone feels like they are building something important, something that will last. They are not just following someone else's rules anymore. They are creating their own future. Carl walked to the large window and looked out at the shipyard where a new dreadnought was taking shape. The ship was called the Roosevelt, and it was larger and more powerful than anything humanity had built while part of the Council. It was designed specifically for the realities of frontier defense without compromise or committee oversight. The question is, Dr. Price said quietly, what do we do about all these requests for help? Carl was quiet for a long moment, thinking about the decision. We are not part of the Council anymore. We do not have to follow their rules about non-interference or proportional response. We do not need committee approval for defensive actions. That is true, Betty agreed. But it also means we do not have to help anyone we do not want to help. Sir, Ryan added, there is something else. Intelligence suggests that some Council species are considering approaching us about alternative arrangements. They want bilateral defense treaties and direct military cooperation agreements. They want to bypass the Council entirely. Carl turned back to his officers. They want to have the best of both worlds. Stay in the Council for the prestige and trade benefits, but work with us for actual security and protection. Exactly, Dr. Price confirmed. Carl made his decision. Send a message to the Valorian Republic. We will help them with their pirate problem, but it will be on our terms. Full operational authority, no Council oversight, and permanent basing rights for our fleet. What about the others? Betty asked. We will evaluate each request individually. The species that supported us in the Council, or at least treated us with respect, get priority consideration. The ones that actively opposed us and insulted us can figure out their own solutions. As his officers began implementing the new policy, Carl reflected on how much had changed. A year ago, humanity had been a junior member of a galactic organization that treated them like useful but untrustworthy children. Now they were an independent power that other species came to for help and protection. The transformation had not been easy. Leaving the Council had meant giving up established trade relationships, research partnerships, and diplomatic connections. Many humans had worried that they were making a terrible mistake, but the results spoke for themselves. Human technology was advancing faster than ever. Their colonies were growing and prospering. Their military was stronger and more effective. Most importantly, they were free to act according to their own values and principles. Admiral, Ryan called out, we are receiving another message. This one is from the hegemony. They want to discuss a mutual defense pact. Carl raised an eyebrow. The hegemony had been one of the most vocal opponents of human proposals in the Council. They had frequently called humans too aggressive and too immature for important responsibilities. What changed their mind? Carl asked. Ryan checked his screen. Their border colonies are being attacked by the same pirates that destroyed the Corvan fleet. They have lost 6 worlds in the past month. Dr. Price shook her head. 6 months ago. They were lecturing us about the virtues of patience and diplomacy. Now they want our help because their own methods have failed. Carl considered the request. The hegemony had never been actively hostile to humanity, just condescending and dismissive. Their colonies contained millions of innocent civilians who had no say in their government's policies. Schedule a meeting, Carl decided, but make it clear that any agreement will be on our terms. We are not a council member anymore. We are an independent power, and we expect to be treated as such. As the day continued, more requests for help arrived. Independent colonies, council members, and even some pirate groups asking for amnesty in exchange for information about larger threats. The galaxy was rapidly reorganizing itself around humanity's new position as a major power. Carl smiled as he watched another human ship land at the spaceport. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy not as junior partners in someone else's organization, but as leaders of their own destiny. 1 year after humanity left the council, the great meeting chamber looked like a shadow of its former glory. Half the seats were empty. Many species had stopped attending meetings to focus on their own survival. The remaining delegates looked tired and defeated. Council Speaker Threnvar stood before the diminished assembly. His once proud posture was now bent with exhaustion. His metal skin had dulled to a gray color. He looked like he had aged decades in just 1 year. The situation continues to get worse, he announced to the sparse crowd. The Shadowhawk Syndicate now controls 17 star systems. The Void Runners have appeared in the Spiral Arm. 3 new pirate alliances have formed in the sectors that used to be patrolled by human ships. Ambassador Keth9 of the Valorian Republic stood up slowly. His people had been among the first to make separate agreements with humanity. Unlike the other representatives who looked defeated, he merely appeared tired, but not hopeless. The solution is obvious, Keth9 said calmly. We need to formally invite humanity back to the council. Not as junior members like before, but as full partners with real authority to make decisions. The crystal being Zelkira flickered weakly. Her once bright form was now dim and cracked. Even if we wanted to do that, they have made it clear they are not interested in rejoining. The human colonial authority has built its own sphere of influence. They are doing well without us. Dr. Morvik accessed his data files with shaking tentacles. The intelligence reports are disturbing. Human territory now includes 43 star systems. Their fleet has grown to over 200 major ships. Their technology has advanced beyond our own in several important areas because they are not limited by our sharing requirements. They have also created the Frontier Alliance, added the Nixari representative. 15 independent species have joined their mutual defense network. They are building their own version of our council, but one that actually works. The irony was painful to acknowledge. Humanity had not just left the Galactic Council. They had created a rival organization that was more effective, more responsive, and more attractive to younger species across the galaxy. Ambassador Yilik of the hegemony spoke with unusual humility. His insect-like features showed embarrassment. We received a proposal from Admiral Carl Davis last week. The Human Colonial Authority is willing to provide security services for our trade routes. The cost is significant, but not unreasonable given the current situation. They want us to pay them for protection? The council speaker's voice rose in anger. We are the Galactic Council. We should not have to hire outsiders to do what we should be doing ourselves. They are not outsiders, Keth9 interrupted firmly. They are a sovereign power offering military assistance. And frankly, they are the only ones who can provide it effectively. My people have been working with them for months. Their response times are faster, their methods are more efficient, and their results are better than anything the Council achieved in decades. Silence settled over the chamber as the delegates absorbed the reality of their situation. The Galactic Council, once the supreme authority in their region of space, had become a client seeking protection from the species they had dismissed as too young and violent for real partnership. There is another option, Dr. Morvik said quietly. Complete dissolution. Each species could return to independent status and form their own alliances and agreements. The suggestion sent a chill through the chamber. For over 3,000 years, The Galactic Council had maintained peace and stability through collective action and shared wisdom. The idea of its complete collapse was almost unthinkable. Or, Zelkira chimed softly, we could formally acknowledge what has already happened. The humans have created a new model of galactic governance. It is more flexible, more responsive, and more willing to act when action is needed. Perhaps we could learn from them instead of competing with them. The Dindari representatives spoke in their slow, deep voice. Our colonies that have joined the Frontier Alliance report higher satisfaction, better security, and more prosperity than those that remain under Council protection. The human model seems to work better for practical governance. A small furry Minari delegate squeaked nervously. The humans still help us even though we are not formal allies. When pirates attacked our mining station, human ships arrived within hours. They did not ask for payment or political concessions. They simply helped because it was the right thing to do. Council Speaker Threnvar looked around the nearly empty chamber. The weight of leadership that had seemed natural for millennia now felt crushing and impossible. The galaxy's balance of power had shifted permanently, and there was no going back to the old ways. I will send a formal communication to Admiral Davis, he said finally. His voice was quiet and humble. Not requesting readmission to our council, but proposing a partnership between equals. The Galactic Council and the Human Colonial Authority, working together to address the current crisis. As the session ended, the delegates filed out in small groups, speaking quietly among themselves. Many were discussing the possibility of joining the Frontier Alliance or making separate agreements. With humanity in the silence of the empty chamber, Threnvar remained alone. He thought about how quickly everything had changed. The species that had been dismissed as too young to lead had become the leaders that others sought to follow. The regret was immediate, profound, and permanent. The Council had had the opportunity to guide and work with an extraordinary species. Instead, they had insulted and dismissed them. Now humanity was showing the galaxy a better way to organize civilization. Through the great windows of the chamber, Threnvar could see ships departing the Council station. Many of them were heading toward human space, carrying delegations seeking new agreements and partnerships. The age of the Galactic Council was ending. The age of human leadership had begun. And perhaps, if they were very lucky and very humble, the older species might be allowed to participate in building something better from the ruins of their failed policies. The galaxy would never be the same. But maybe, Threnvar thought as he finally left the empty chamber, that was exactly what it needed.